Hello, everyone. I'm Kristen Crowley, and today we're going to discuss something a lot of veterans are struggling with, which is the big question: what do I do after the military? Jason Redman is a retired Navy SEAL who was severely wounded on the battlefield in 2007, and you may know him from his appearances on several national news networks and may have read one of his best-selling books. But after 21 years in the teams, Jason found the journey from the into the entrepreneurial space was a whole nother battle, and we're here to talk about that today. So thank you, Jay, for being with us tonight.
Kristen, honored to be here. Thanks.
You ready? You ready to do
Let's
this?
do this.
We're going to talk about this.
Yeah.
We're going to help some people.
The business battlefield.
Business.
It will, you'll get shot up much more.
This is, yeah, and I'd like to think back on this. You think the day that you got shot up was probably the worst thing you faced, and that really didn't prepare you for the battles that you were going to face coming up after that, because when you're in the business space, they're just not as visible. Like yours was visible. We know you got hurt. In business, we don't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, the business world is a whole nother world, and something that the military definitely did. There are aspects of the military that prepare you for it. Special operations probably gives you a mindset of it, but there are so many other things that, boy, was just baptism by fire in business. There's no doubt about it. You know.
All right, let's talk about it, because we want to talk about kind of your travels through the entrepreneurial space. We want to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly. We want to kind of know the nitty-gritty of what it took, because you've been through several businesses. But when you left the teams, you obviously had your injuries. You were able to stay in, finish out your time, which was great. You were able to retire, which doesn't mean retirement. And where did you go right after you left the teams?
So I had launched a nonprofit, and I think a lot of veterans are really big about that. We want to give back. We want to make a difference. Oftentimes we lost friends, especially with this current war on terror. So it drives a lot of us to want to give back. It did the same for me. I ended up launching a nonprofit. And you want to learn about business, run a nonprofit. Holy smokes. I mean, the amount of tight regulation you need to have, the amount of transparency, the way you track everything, funds, restricted funds, all of this that has to happen. You're constantly working hard to fundraise. You're constantly working hard, obviously, your volunteers, and then if you have staff. So I learned a lot. I also learned it's a very different world coming from a very high level type A, top tier special operations world into the civilian world. Not knocking the civilian world, it's just a different world. And there are some people who need a lot more instruction and assistance.
Yeah.
And that was one of my first challenges. When I got out, I was like, hey, go do this.
Was it hard when you got out to say, like, you know, you can't just fight it out? Like, if you have an issue, sometimes you can punch somebody in the face, or you can go wrestle it out, or, you know, get it out physically. You can't do that in the real world.
No, they felt very intimidated.
They frown upon that.
Yeah, you couldn't.
You go to jail.
or I had instances where someone would like be disrespectful to one of my staff, and I would like lay into that person. Not my staff, but the person. That did that, and it mortified my staff, and I'm like, what are you talking about? What's wrong? I'm like
defending your honor.
Yeah, I'm taking care of you, and they're like, no, they were beside themselves.
You can't do that. You can't talk to people that way.
Yeah, I quickly learned, hey, there's a difference in the civilian world, how we talk, how we engage. Things happen often slower.
A lot slower.
There's a lot more back and forth. One of the other big lessons I remember, I was used to the military and the aspect of, you know, things are pretty black and white as far as protocol, regulations. I mean, if we're buying something, I don't even want to get into the military contracting space, but what I understood was, hey, if you tell me something costs this, I expect it to cost this. I got into the business space, and I'm like, yeah, hey, this is how much, you know, this is. And people would be like, well, will you do it for this? And I'm like, no. That's the price. What's wrong with you? So I had to learn that, hey, man, the business world's all about negotiating, deal making, all these different things. And that took time to learn. There were so many lessons, and I'm still learning every day.
True. I mean, I don't think you ever stopped learning, because you didn't go to school for business, or did you go to any classes when you got out of the military to try and prepare for that?
No, and I did. I actually have a business degree. But what's interesting, so I got my degree, though, in 2004. So I retired in 2013. So 10 years later, on one side, there were many things that are timeless in business. Understanding a profit and loss statement, understanding a balance sheet, understanding cash flow analysis. Those things really helped me, and they have still helped me to this day. Cash flow is king. It's one of the only reasons why I think we ran our nonprofit as long, and why we've built the businesses we have, is managing that cash flow. But the other things I learned in there all had gone away. I mean, all that stuff. I mean, 10 years later, the world had changed drastically with technology and the way things work. So a lot of that was trial by fire and just figuring things out.
And going through some battles, because I think everybody, especially when you're a public figure like you are, people know you, they recognize you, they see the glory, they see, some of the fame or infamy, we'll call it whichever one you want to. And they think like, oh, you've had it easy, these things have come great, you get this business easily, whatever. You like to share the really crappy parts of what happened in business, because you had some you go big on everything. Whether you're going to go big, whether it's good or bad, you go big on it. So you had some big failures, and I think it's good for you to share those with people.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I tell everyone, when I interview people, what's funny is if I'm bringing someone on, one of the big questions I'll always ask is, tell me about a major failure you've had in your life. And it's fascinating to me because most people will not share. They'll give me some really vanilla thing, nothing. And I'm like, that's the greatest failure you've ever had in your life? What, have you never lived, Because you really learn about someone from their biggest failures.
Yeah.
And I have had them in business. I mean.
Well, run through the other, because I think some people might be unfamiliar with some of those other ones. So when the nonprofit wound down.
Well, a couple of years prior, we were involved in a lawsuit where I was accused of fraud and collusion and all these things, these terrible things. Front page news, we were dealing with that in this day and age. Unfortunately, in the great world of social media and information warfare, you're guilty until proven innocent. And that was a really hard journey to A, show we didn't do any of these things, but B, to overcome the negative impact that really impacted our nonprofit. So we learned, and having once again to own it, hey, I didn't have an agreement, so there were things, contracts, all these things. That was my first rock solid lesson in business. 2 years after being out of the military, that happened in 2015, and made me say, if you're doing anything, you need a contract. Even if it's as simple as a memorandum of agreement. A lot of veterans run into that issue because they're like, hey, we're veterans, we're bros, a handshake's good enough. And I'm like, listen, man, protect yourself, and you're protecting the other person. This protects both of you in that agreement, because what happens is time goes on and money flows. Memories start to get vague on what did we agree on, and as money gets involved, man, that's when friction starts to occur.
I mean, how much did that handshake, cost you? It cost you a lot.
Cost me a lot.
It's like,
a very painful journey.
It can cost a lot of money, and I think that's hard when you do go into business with friends. So advice for people coming out of the military, that's some of the things that you need to learn. So that's one of the big lessons you wish people realize sooner. So when you're getting out and you really want to go into real world business, maybe you want to be an entrepreneur at this point, because that is, even though it's a trend, doesn't mean that everybody has to do it. Not everybody's built for that. So what are some of the things that you wish people all knew sooner, so it would maybe save them some of the struggles you went through?
Stop trying to do everything yourself. You have strengths and you have weaknesses. The faster you can find people who are really good at doing the things that you're not good at doing, the faster your business is going to grow. Also, it's hard in the beginning of businesses. We only have limited resources, limited money, but paying for a coach or someone who has been there before you in your business is probably one of the greatest things you can do. And I didn't do that until later, and I wish I had. I feel like I'm hard-headed. I think I can figure it out on my own. And later, finding people who had done things before, as a friend of mine, business coach Bedros Koulian calls it, time collapse, so that you can do things so much faster.
Yeah, find people who've been there before you. And the military community is good at that, because there are mentors out there. There are people that can help you get through those kind of things. And now you're kind of helping other entrepreneurs in the area, because obviously, we're talking to a lot of people local here in the 757. So you have your new venture. So business A led to business B, led to business C. Now business D, like this new adventure. So where is that at?
So we just opened up Riverview Center here in Great Bridge at Chesapeake. Really excited about that. So co-working, executive office space, podcast studios, meeting rooms, and a event center that will be launching. And we're super excited. We want to encourage people to get there, providing jobs. We want to have an impact in the community. So.
It is going to be good, and that's a good resource when people are looking to go into those communities, because there's always someone to help you, like you said, legally, financially, get things set up that you actually need to get in place to protect yourself. And I mean, we talk about that all the time, like protecting yourself, finding people who will protect you when you're not in the room, and getting literally everything in writing. I don't think there's anything else.
100%. Yeah, have very clear outcomes. I mean, have a contract. I mean, I love you lawyers out there, but sometimes it gets a little ridiculous. I'll stay away from that. But at the end of the day, there is a balance. You need to have clear outcomes. You need to have timelines. You need to have key metrics. And those are things that both of you should agree on. I would also say probably one of the biggest things I learned, diversify. And that has been one of the biggest things that maybe I'm a little too diversified sometimes. But I am always looking at if this business was to stall or have issues, how do I make sure? And that was a lesson I learned out of COVID. Speaking came to a grinding halt overnight. March of 2020, I had all these events on the books, and overnight, by April of 2020, every event for the year had been canceled. And it was after that I said, wow, we really got to figure out how to diversify different parts of our business, launch new businesses and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it is crazy to see some of that stuff. So in the business world, I think we're going to have a little fun real quick before we throw it to a quick video. So I want to do this to you. You don't know I'm going to do this right now, so this is always fun with Jay. Rapid fire questions. So these are things that you have not been privy to before we sat down here. So here are my questions. Are you ready? So you got to answer them quick. I'm not going to let you think about it.
Okay.
All right. First one, how many animals do you actually own?
Me or my wife?
How many animals live in your house?
5, 6, 9, 15.
You lost track. 15, that's an accurate number. If you could be any animal, which animal would you be?
Oh, probably a wolverine.
Okay.
I know everybody out there is going to be like, that's a Michigan animal, but they're hardy little bastards.
They are tenacious. You are tenacious. I think that one actually fits. We actually talked about this before. Transformers. Which one would you be?
I'm probably a bumblebee. I am.
I see you as Bumblebee. I think that's accurate. Favorite business book?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad changed my outlook on life, and I would not have the businesses I have right now if it wasn't for that book.
Okay, favorite business mentor?
It's a tie.
Okay.
John Paul DeJoria and Bedros Keuilian.
All right. If you could get one business saying framed, what would it be?
It's going to cost twice as much, it'll take twice as long, and it'll be twice as hard.
All your nicknames over the years?
Ranger Red, Super Redman, Rambo Red, Red Bone. So,
good ones. Okay. All right. I like those. So rapid fire is fun. We're going to get back to the animal one because I think your wife's going to have some things to say about that. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to wrap up with some closing remarks with Jay.
So many people ask that question. Where am I going? In life, in business, personally, as a parent, as a leader? Where am I going? You can have this, but without this, your chances of making it are almost impossible. People will follow you if you give them a reason to. And that is what we tell people in any kind of ambush. You have to get off the X. You control your destiny. There is always hope. Choose life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Because we're Americans. It's what we do.
We love all of the talks that you do, and tonight I think, if you helped one person, you've helped more than we need to. So in this community is important. If you're going to get out of the military and transition to the real world, Definitely. Now, we do have a gift for everybody out there, too. You put together something that is based on Jay's Overcome training. So if you want to change your mindset in 20 minutes, scan the code that's on your screen right now, and you will get one of his lessons for free for any of our veterans and military members in the community. So thank you for doing that. And it's really a great conversation out of that. And, I guess closing remarks on this, because a lot of people are going to look at this topic and say, Jay made it, but how many years did it take you?
I'm still working on it. And the interesting thing with business, there's highs and lows. Right now, everybody would look at us and say, oh my God, you own a building. We're so tied up right now, I can't afford a brownie. But that's okay,
I'll get
because
you a brownie.
we're building. Hey, it's growth and grind right now. And I think people need to understand that in business. There are seasons. And if you want to go to this level, you'll get to the top of this level where I was, and it was like, hey, this is great. And then I was like, you know what, I want to go to the next level. And now we're in that growth and grind phase. So just understand that it's going to take time. It's going to be hard. You're going to have setbacks. Yeah. Yesterday for us, oh my God, we had multiple setbacks that cost tens of thousands of dollars. And I'm like, I don't know where this money's going to come from.
Yeah.
But guess what? That's the joy of being an entrepreneur. We'll figure it out.
If it was easy, everybody would do it. So I think it makes a big difference when people are getting into it to have resources. They can come to you, they can ask questions. We encourage them to do that.
Yes, and veterans, you have the skills to do this. So many of you don't think you do, but the intangible skills are so critical. The leadership, the ability to bring people together, the overcome mindset can enable you to be a very successful entrepreneur.
All right, well, thank you so much, Jason, for sharing tonight. And I guess on that note, we thank you guys for joining us, and make sure you go to jasonredman.com to get any of that information, and Jay will be there to help you. So on that, we're done.
We're out.